Hey, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we are playing King of Fighters 14 on the PlayStation 4. I believe this is also available on Steam. I don't know what the Steam edition includes. It might have the extra characters. I did not purchase any of the DLC characters, so if you're wanting to see what they look like, sorry to disappoint. It's not going to be on this video. There is a story mode, but I figured I would stick to versus. I don't know if this is the 13th game in the series. I'm not a huge expert on King of Fighters. I know it's basically a mashup of all of SNK's fighting games where they throw in characters, kind of like a versus Capcom game, but it just sticks in the SNK universe. Like if Capcom made a versus game without fighting Marvel characters, I'm picking Yuri, which is obviously, again, a female character in a Japanese fighting game, but I just like the designs of the female characters and just the way they fight and stuff in Japanese fighting games. Sorry, but I pick versus mode. You can pick either a single or a tag team. This actually, as basic as this game might look to some people, this is actually after a graphical update. The shading was a little bit different when this game first came out. If you're super into physical copies, you will be able to play everything in the game just fine. It's just not going to look as nice as this. If you think this looks nice, I personally think it looks nice. It's super sharp and the shading's just nice. And considering 13 was a 2D fighting game, I feel like it captures that quite well. Even though Street Fighter 4 and 5 take place like in on a 2D field with 3D polygonal characters like this, I feel like it still doesn't feel quite like the old Street Fighter games, where this very much feels like the King of Fighter games. Now, I'm not familiar. I'm guessing there's 14 King of Fighter games, but when the King of Fighter games first came out, they started to go by date, like King of Fighters 98, 99, 2000, or whatever. I think I want to cover it at some point. I would like to, at least. I have one of the PlayStation 2 games on PlayStation 4 that I really like, called King of Fighters like 2000 or 2001. I can't remember exactly, which is really sad because I own it. And the character close-ups, the models are quite nice and the shading's improved. I thought that before the graphical overhaul, which is basically the shading's a little bit different. As far as the models go and stuff like that, I feel like it's the same. Maybe it's a little bit sharper, but I felt like it was competent enough. Again, it's trying to emulate a 2D look. Now, I am sort of disappointed that they upgraded the polygons, especially since I wanted to see like a good sprite-based 2D fighter, especially with SNK's caliber of graphical fidelity, because I thought King of Fighters 13, and again, I don't think I did a video of that. Maybe I should. If I did, I apologize. I've done over 700 videos, so you have to forgive me if I forget if I covered a game or not. But that game's absolutely beautiful, and I was kind of looking forward to what the next sprite-based game looks like. And now Arc System Works, I think that's the name of the company, whoever developed Dragon Ball Z Fighters. Now, that game looks beautiful and looks like a hand-drawn 2D game, but there's certain parts where you can tell it's obviously polygonal. There's just something with sprite-based animation you just can't fake, at least anyway, as far as right now. But as far as the fighting mechanics go, it's pretty accessible for somebody who button mashes like me when they don't know how to play because they haven't played this game in a while. Like, I play the tutorials, which are quite nice, and the fighting moves are fairly easy to pull off. But when I did this video, I'm used to playing Street Fighter, so obviously I only know how to do like half circle moves and stuff like that. So I'm guessing, and there's quite a few characters in this game, so I haven't played most of them. I usually pick Yuri, King, and then that girl with the fans. I can't remember. Usually those are the people that I pick. All girls again. Usually they're faster and their kicks are longer, etc., etc. I just feel like they fight better, but I just kept on picking random on this video so you could get a good idea. I really like the character designs. I really like how this is really bright, colorful, and sharp. And again, before the graphical update, I personally thought it looked alright. I didn't think it looked as good as, say, Street Fighter V or whatever. But it's not Street Fighter V, and it has its own look to it, and I thought it looked fine. The camera doesn't zoom in as much as obviously you would see in other 2D plane-based fighting games like Dragon Ball FighterZ or Street Fighter V or even 4. But I think it looks great, and when it actually zooms into the characters, I think it looks quite nice. The tag team mode works a little bit different, which I'll show you eventually in this video, where you basically just fight through all the characters. I think there's a way to have your character help you out a bit, but I don't know. I actually played this game with the Mad Catz Street Fighter V Fight Pad Pro. There's like 4 variants of it. There's a black one, I think it's for M. Bison. There's a white one, I think it's for Ryu. There's a red one, I believe for Ken, and a blue one for Chun-Li. And they have like individual silk screen designs on them. When they first came out, the D-pad had this awful flat disc. I actually bought it when Street Fighter V first came out, and it was quite terrible. It didn't really work. The pad was awful because you really couldn't tell where your thumb was, and I think I just had a defective one overall because it kept on pushing the share button, and from what I heard, the circle button was sticky. But right before Mad Catz went out of business, they actually redesigned the controller to be more like a Sega Saturn D-pad, and honestly, that's like the best controller for a fighting game I've ever used, and I highly recommend it. And you can get it between about like $35 to $40 depending on what color you get. I wouldn't pay $60 for it. Funny story, when I first actually ordered it, I was so excited. It's like, your shipment's coming today, and I waited and I waited, and apparently my dog barks every time she hears the slightest noise, right? The one time I needed her to bark, she didn't, and somebody stole my package off of the front porch. Well, they stole the item that was in the package. They left the package on my front porch, so I know it was stolen. And a few weeks later, I go to the pawn shop, and even though I didn't pay that much money for it, I was like so angry. I'm like, nobody's gonna have the controller except me. I know it's like super greedy, right? But you know, I was upset because it was stolen, and I was even more upset when I see it at the pawn shop, where it's like the person that stole it's not even enjoying it or using it. They just sold it just so they could get like a couple of bucks. And I was like, how much is it? I was gonna buy it back thinking that it was gonna be even cheaper than what I paid for it, and they're like $60. I was like, never mind, if I want it, I'll just order another one. But luckily I had Amazon Prime, and they replaced it free, no questions asked, and it's basically the best controller for a fighting game I ever played. When I first took back the original that was defective and not redesigned with the flat disc pad, so if you order one, make sure you get the one that has like the plus in the center of the circle. This is tag team mode, by the way. I probably should talk about the game, but this is my channel. I do what I want. But anyway, I got the Fight Commander Pro by Hori or whatever, and it's alright controller, but it has excuse me, like a cross D-pad, like the Super Nintendo. I say like the Super Nintendo because even though the PlayStation technically has a cross pad, there's like dividers in it, you know, where it's like arrows instead of actually like a whole piece of plastic. I think Nintendo may have patented that. I don't know, but that's terrible for fighting games. You want something that can easily glide. The Xbox 360 version looks like it would be super good for fighting games, the D-pad on it, but it's so stiff, like, I don't know, it's terrible, like the D-pad on it. Ironically, the Xbox 360, until I feel like the PlayStation 4 came out, had the market on analog sticks, although I feel like after time, the 360s tend to drift with like the dead zones and stuff like that. But when you first get a new 360 controller, it's pretty amazing for first-person shooters and stuff like that compared to the PlayStation 3 controller. But I'm not being biased because, like I said, like if I found like a better controller, because I didn't have a 360 for a long time, and I would fully admit that the 360 controller was better for first-person shooters than the PlayStation 3 controller, and the PlayStation 3 controller was better for platformers and stuff like that. But I would fully admit, plus the triggers on the PlayStation 3 controller I feel like weren't as good as the 360, but I feel like now with the PlayStation 4 controller, it's awesome. So yeah, you basically saw that I fought through all three ones. That's the girl with the fan I was talking about that I couldn't remember what her name was. She's actually quite good. A lot of these males on this game are like really slow and bulky and just not my style, but that might just be because I'm used to playing as Chun-Li, who like jumps around and stuff like that. There's an awesome fighting game. Excuse me, I still have that chest cold. I'm trying not to cough in the mic. Like this robot guy who I never played as before, he kind of, at least for me, I don't like playing as him. He's super slow and bulky and stuff like that. Like, it just feels like the girls are all on point, basically, as far as like fighting and stuff like that. Their punches are long range enough and their kicks are long range. I think with the big bulkier guys, if you know what you're doing, they'd probably be pretty useful just for the fact that their hits take a lot more damage and stuff like that. I don't know why the AI is so easy on this. I probably should have made it harder. The game does get harder, so if you're seeing this and you're like, they're just standing there, it's just probably because I didn't raise the difficulty. I just did a fresh install right before I played this game, which the Wi-Fi on the base PlayStation 4 with the Wi-Fi that I actually have is just awful. Like in the other room, I just have like basically an Ethernet cable hooked up right to my router, and the downloads are so much faster. But I think the PlayStation 4 Pro's download speeds are faster to begin with. But like what would take like a few minutes for like a download in the other room, like it took like an hours. Luckily I had the SNES Classic like right beside the TV, so while everything was downloading, I was playing Donkey Kong Country, which I'm a little bit frustrated because I actually beat that game and I've realized how rusty I've gotten playing 2D platformers. And I'm like, oh man, either I'm getting old and my response time isn't fast enough, or I'm just like out of touch because I've been playing all these 3D games, and it's just, you don't realize how much the average game holds your hand now versus how much it didn't back in the day until you go back and play some older games. Now, I'm playing as probably, in my opinion, some of the quirkier characters in the whole game. I think there's like a dinosaur or something in this game that I think is a little bit probably the quirkiest, but I mean, I don't know what the deal with that girl is. And then I have like this dude that looks like he just left Comic-Con or whatever, but you know, it's still super creative. I do like the really colorful graphics. I do feel like they didn't really take full advantage of the 3D capabilities. Since you have 3D models, you can zoom in and zoom out, but the camera's always like far away, and it's a shame because there's a lot of cool little details on the characters that you don't really get to see until they win. But I guess they were trying to capture the 2D feel, and they did quite well. I just wish that if they were gonna go this route and have the camera like pan out this far away, I really wish that the graphics were still like 2D sprites. I really miss that. But there's supposed to be some blaze blue, or some people I've heard call it Blaz blue. I don't know what the right way to say it. Some tag team game that's coming out that looks like it's made with 2D sprites that's coming out for the PlayStation 4. Hopefully they're not reused, but some of the characters, I think they're using some of the characters from this weird anime thing called Ruby, which is popular. It's RYBY. People seem to really like it, but it looks like Dreamcast, like real-time cutscenes. Like, it's free, you can watch them on YouTube, but I just see like the concept art and stuff like that for it, and it looks so good, and I'm like, man, it would have been cool if they hand drawn it. People enjoy it, and that's all that counts. But they have characters from Persona, and everything's like sprite based, and they have the characters from their other franchises, so hopefully I'll look forward to that. But this is a great game, worth checking out if you want to play something other than Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct, or Street Fighter. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks again, and take care.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe! Thanks for watching!